Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Miss Kellie Michele, and today I have a special guest with us. We have Charisma Freeman, who is here to talk about syndications in real estate investments. So let me give you a little bit of information about Charisma, okay? So she is living her dream travel life through passive real estate investing. As a founder of multiple companies, she invests in portfolio investments consisting of single family rentals, multifamily syndications in multiple states, and land ownership in Africa. She uses her knowledge to teach women to invest in hands-off real estate, live out their dream lives. Now, Charisma is a single mother of two, and her youngest has a disability, but that does not stop her from traveling with her son. She also takes time to teach women the easiest way to travel alongside their family members with special needs, disabilities, and as a single parent. Say hello, Charisma.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's just talk about a little bit why you chose to get into syndications. What has been your experience with real estate syndications investing?
So I chose real estate syndications by mistake, kind of. I invested in an apartment building kind of early on, and it was what I thought was a syndication. It wasn't actually a syndication. It was probably more like crowdfunding with someone that did it that had no idea what they were doing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
So it ended up just being a mess. Actually, it's still going. This is the last year of it. So
Okay.
I will be happily getting out of it this year. And one of the partners and we ended up investing in some other properties, doing some JVs. And, she had told me about this group of individuals, and it was actually a syndication. And
Okay.
that was the first idea I really had into what a syndication really was. And she and I have actually invested in most of the same syndications since then. So I've gone on to really further my education in it. Found out there wasn't a whole lot of education about how to invest in them, but a
Mhm.
lot of information about how to be one of the team players in them. So once I found out about it, I was like, oh, this is fairly simple. And that's been the majority of my investment. So since then.
Okay, great. Now, the reason why we are talking about syndications is because they're an easy way to basically invest in real estate and get a piece of ownership, okay, in some type of a rental. These could be commercial, multifamily buildings, it could be strip malls, it could be shopping malls, like any type of commercial real estate. Syndications are available for that. I believe they also have syndications for regular residential homes. Is that correct, Charisma?
Yeah, those are the most popular are your apartment homes, your multifamily syndications. So anything that will be considered commercial, in most places that's more than 5 units. However, with syndications, typically they're going to be larger. They're going to be 20, 100 plus units.
Okay. So let's step back because you talked about crowdfunding and you talked about syndications. Let's tell the audience what is the difference between the two, and let's give a great description or definition of what a syndication is.
So they fall under a governmental code. So you can't just, with crowdfunding, anyone can kind of come up with crowdfunding. It's typically online. It's typically when, a bunch of different people that don't know each other throw their money into maybe a small apartment home, or in Atlanta, they did a buy the block type of thing where a lot of different people had no connections to one another, put money into it. And typically, you can put a lower amount of money into it. I've seen where they're like, crowdfunding start at $5. I don't know what you're going to make, to be honest, starting at $5.
Right.
But that's what you're doing. And you're putting it into basically a fund on the internet. So you really don't know who is over it. You don't know what their experience is other than what they tell you. You don't know a lot about what you're investing in.
Mhm.
You're, in a sense, taking a gamble that you're putting your money into something that's pretty good. Syndications are, they have to follow certain regulations set by the securities guidelines. So, you can't just say, I'm going to do a syndication and do one. There are very specific guidelines for them. There are guidelines for who can invest and what criteria you must meet to be able to invest. So, what a syndication is well, I'm going to tell you what it consists of and then kind of go into what it is.
Okay.
So, a syndication consists of a sponsor and general partners. And basically, that is your team. And that team will choose an asset to invest in. So, that's when it comes in, whether it's a hotel, an apartment home, a land deal, a storage facility. And once they choose that asset and they do the necessary background information, get that asset, well, they may not have it under contract. Yeah, they may have it. They should have it under contract at this point. They
Okay.
get it under contract. And what they do is they go out into the world and find limited partners, which will be other investors, passive investors that want a piece of this pie. So you basically invest and you have a percentage of the investment. You all form an LLC. Typically, there are two different types of syndications. In some syndications, the guidelines say you must know someone on that team, you must know some partner to invest in this. That you need to show some way how you all know one another. On the other end of that, you don't necessarily have to know one another, but you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. You have to make a certain amount of money annually to be able to invest. You need to be a little bit more than just, I know how to invest. You need to show that you can really take this risk.
Okay.
So, it's a little different with the syndications than doing the crowdfunding. That's why I say what I did before was the crowdfunding. Any Joe Blow can say, I found a building, give me your money. You're going to make lots of money.
Mhm.
Invest with me. And any Joe Blow can say, sure, here's my money.
Right. Right. Okay. So basically, with syndications, it's government regulated, right? And they do their due diligence to make sure you are a good investment partner. That's what I got.
They should.
They should. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. So I know syndications, that it's a specific real estate investment strategy. Now, how does this differ from other investment strategies? You just talked about the crowdfunding, but what about the other different types of real estate investing strategies?
So I look at syndications for me as more of a long term hold. Syndications isn't, oh, I'm going to do a fix and flip. I'm going to get in and get out in a couple of months or maybe a year. That's not the way syndications work. Syndications are not your regular rental where you're basically like, oh, I'm going to buy this property, I'm going to rent it out. Oh, the market changed. I'm going to sell it because now I can make some profit. Or, oh, I'm going to hold it, see what happens. That is not your syndication. With your syndication, first of all, unless you're part of that team, the sponsor or the general partners, you don't make any decisions. You have no decision making. So that's the first thing. That can be a good or bad thing, depending on the person. Some people want to be completely hands on. So syndications are not for them. Some people are like, I don't want anything to do with it. Just take this money, make me some money. And, once you get my money, let me know.
Okay.
So That is what syndications are. You is this is not a place where you're going to put in money and be able to take out money if you have an emergency, or if you have that big trip or that birthday. You're not going to be able to sell. Even if you can sell, there are stipulations around you selling. If you're able to sell, if the stipulations were put in there. So your expectation when you go into a syndication is that I'm putting this money in for the long term. The long term can be a year if it's a land deal. Typically, those don't stay long. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. But those, that's something you will know in the beginning. There
Mhm.
are market fluctuations. So that 5 year could turn to 6 or 7 years, or the market could be good and that 5 years can turn to 2 years and you can make the money back in 2 years. But you need to go in with the expectation that if they say 5 years, this money is going to be here 5 years. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
So when you say get out of it or it ends in 5 years, at that point they sell the property and that's when you get your profit, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So it depends on how the syndication is structured. So let's take a multifamily syndication. A lot of times with the multifamily, the apartment homes, they're going to do value add. They're going to go in here and find basically a reason how they will increase the rents.
Mhm.
So whether that is taking a C property in a B neighborhood and making it a B property, and changing out appliances, painting the apartments, putting down greenery, adding a dog park, charging for the laundry, or increasing the charge for the laundry facilities. But
Okay.
there's going to be some value that they add here that is going to increase rents. In turn, that's going to make more income. So that is one part of how you will receive your dividends. And typically that maybe it can be received monthly, quarterly, or annually. That's something that you should find out up front. So, for the most part, 50% of your return will be received through that dividend process, that annually, quarterly, whatever. And then at the end of those 5 years, they have either said we're going to sell or we're going to refinance this property and pull the funds out. This is something you should also know in the very beginning. Once they let so once that time comes, about a year before that time comes, they should be looking at the market. They should always be looking at the market because on average, the goal is to double your money. So if you put in 50, you should be able to get out 100. If that market changes, for example, when we came out of COVID, I had some partners, they were in a syndication. It was a 5 year hold. The way that market went up, they were out in a year.
Okay.
That is not typical,
Mhm. Mhm.
but we know nothing about that market was typical, right?
Right.
So, you plan to hold it, and what they did was they sold it. Someone came, they sold it, it met all the criteria, gave the partners their money plus more, so they went ahead and sold it. So they may sell it or they may refinance it. If they sell it, then they give you your dividends. Then they may refinance it and choose not to have it as a syndication anymore. They refinance it, all the partners get what they get, and then maybe they put it in another LLC where it may be just the few of them. Or they may say who stays in, who goes out, and we refinance it, put it into something else. Typically, they will sell, but like I said, there are some other ways that can be done as well.
So what made you in particular motivated to focus on syndication investing? I know you invest in other ways as well, but why was this an avenue that you chose to take?
So I feel like syndications are more long term or generational wealth. I look at it as the secret investment tool that the wealthy is using that we know nothing about.
Okay.
because basically a lot of people, they use their 401ks or their I don't, some people can use their IRAs, but you can use your 401k, do self-directed or have an agency direct it for you, and
Hmm.
you can use that, put it into this real estate investment, make a 10% cash on cash return versus whatever they're making in the market. So you think, for those of us that had money in the 401k sitting in the stock market that lost, the other people that had money from their 401k in the syndication didn't lose,
Hmm.
because that's commercial property. And for the most part, it's going to stay stable or it's going to go up. Right now, we know in this market, commercial is the best thing to really be invested in, because it's staying stable and it's going up.
Hmm.
So I said, well, I want to generate some long-term wealth. So I decided to put a lump sum of money in some syndications to generate that long-term wealth. When I'm looking at my short term, my monthly, my mailbox money, I'm looking at my rentals. I'm looking at what you do, so I'm starting to learn more about that. So those are the things that I'm looking at. To me, it's part of diversifying. There, you don't want to put all your money in one pot. So I have this that's long term, this that's short term, stocks, bonds, gold, platinum. For me, it's another avenue of diversification.
Okay. Okay. So I know each syndication is going to be different, but typically, what is the minimum average that you would usually have to invest in order to get into a syndication?
I would say the minimum is about 10K.
Okay.
You can find some at 10K as you start to get into, the world of syndications. It's just like everything else. Once you get into the world, you start to run into the same people. You'll start to see more. It may be minimum is 25K. There may be some where it's 5K. There may be some instances where, let's say, I have a partner that was a private money lender. She was able to use that as her way of getting into the syndication without giving the cash. So by lowering that interest rate a little bit, that in turn, I mean, that's dollars and cents,
Hmm.
because it's saving a specific amount of money. That's not typically always the case, because that's going to take some finagling. But yeah, you can get in it for a lower amount. And as you go on, you may look at some syndications that require a little bit more money. Like if you're looking at land syndications, you're not getting in at 10. You may be lucky to get in at 50, but that's also because land syndications are some of the quickest ones. You can get in and out of a land syndication in about 6 months to a year a lot of the times, because they're developing that land for subdivisions. So nobody's holding land for long periods of time. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. Like storage facilities tend to be a little longer. Apartment homes are about, 5 years. But that amount of money depends on what you're investing in sometimes.
Okay, so you guys, I want to make sure you caught this. Now, just because you heard her say a minimum of 10,000 doesn't mean you have to have 10,000 sitting in your banking account, right? For it's cash that you're just ready to hand over. Notice that Charisma said that you can use your 401k. Many people, or many of you, have been in your jobs or been in your careers for a certain amount of time, and I'm sure you have $10,000 in your 401k. At this point, you can reallocate that money. Tell them you're taking it out for another investment purpose and go from there and follow whatever directions you need to follow to get those 401k funds out to invest in the syndication. Now, I'm not sure about IRAs, but definitely contact whomever is managing your IRA or whoever you have it with and just ask the question and see what they say, because this is going from one investment into another. So I just want to make sure you guys picked up on that. I don't want you to get discouraged thinking, oh, I can't do this because I don't have the money. You may have the money. You may have some equity in your house that you can refinance that house and put that equity into a syndication and make you more money. That is what we
Mm.
call making your money work for you. Okay. That's all investment is about. Making your money work for you, putting your money into some type of tool that will allow it to grow and make you more money. So, what
Mhm.
other advice would you give people who are interested in investing in syndications?
Make sure you know what your criteria is. Make sure you know what the questions are. The reason why I came up with my course is because I found that there was nothing that I could find to teach me how to invest in a real estate syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one I invested in, like I said, was probably crowdfunding. It's not something where I lost anything, but it's something that now that I have the education, it was like once I knew what to look for, I'm just like, is anything about this right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is wrong and that's wrong and this part is wrong, and I was lucky, I'm not losing any money. It may be like breaking even, but I'm not losing anything.
Mm-hmm.
However, that could have been done a whole lot easier if, I knew what to look for ahead of time. Also, use those 401ks. You will have to check with the administrator of your 401k to see if it can be used. You may have to roll it over with a different company. So there are some different things. Also, make sure you know if you have to finish out that syndication before you leave your job if your 401k is with your job,
Okay.
because they have some stipulations sometimes too. But use that 401k. You can be making 15% on cash return. The market average is 7% for the stock market. We know right now, the day that we're recording this, is even lower.
Mm-hmm.
The rich people and the wealthy are using this to generate wealth while they sleep.
Mm-hmm.
We are out here busting our butts, doing fix and flips, calling contractors, building up clients, trying to get trying to get our rooms filled. I have a tenant moving out. I gotta go and get that taken care of. We are busting our butts. But once you build up that money, use that money. And like you said, Miss Kellie, let that money work for you. You shouldn't be around here still wholesaling in 3, 4, 5 years. You should have made money that can now make money for you and
Right.
let somebody else do the wholesaling for you.
Yes. Yes. So one thing I've heard you mention a couple times, and I want to make sure it's very clear. Charisma teaches people how to get into syndications, right? Tell everybody the name of your course, how they can get access to it, and maybe a summary of what's covered in that course.
So basically, my course, you can go on my website, charisma-cares.com, and there's a link to the course there. And it's all of my courses. So the syndication is one of those courses. But basically, I teach you everything we discuss in detail. I teach you about, well, the basics of real estate. So if you're not familiar with what I meant by the type C property, B property, we start with those basics. We talk about the value add and the opportunistic, what we're doing to these properties when we get into it. So I'm going to teach you those ABCs of it, because if I didn't say this, you don't already have to be in real estate to do a syndication. You don't have to do all the other stuff. There's no prerequisite. So I like to make sure that everybody is on the same page when we go into that. We talk about how to interview that team, what you need to know, what they need to know. I even go as far as to say what questions you should make sure to ask if they're not covered. We talk about building your criteria and what each criteria means. What is the cash on cash return? How does that relate to syndications versus how it related to, when we're doing our rentals, because it's the same formula, but it means different things. We talk about the IRR. That's a very important number in real estate syndications. So we're talking about all of these things to help you create your criteria. I give you some websites as well as some groups that you can get into to learn more about syndication, so you have a starting place. Once you get into these groups will introduce you to other groups, and you will spread your network as far as you want that net to go. That's really up to you, because I'm going to start you off in some groups that, I feel like are great, especially for beginners. So I go through all of this so that once you are done with this course, you can truly go in a group, listen to a presentation, listen to them, mark out what your criteria is, and you're going to know what they're talking about. I'm not teaching you the fluff, because you're not doing the syndication, so you don't need to know the fluff. But there are certain things that you need to know so that you can make an educated decision with your finances, so you are doing what the rich and the wealthy are doing and make that money work for you.
Yes. Okay, so you guys, all of her information is going to be in the description. So the website for her courses, her social media links, all of that stuff is going to be in the description. So make sure you check that out. Also, additional part of this video is going to be in the Rental Revenue Builders membership. So if you want to see the entire video and get all of this good information that Charisma is sharing with us, make sure you sign up for the Rental Revenue Builders membership. That link will be below in the description as well. Now, Charisma, I would like to thank you so much for sharing this information, because you definitely taught me some things. And once I decide on which direction I want to go in, and if it is syndications, I definitely will be picking up your course so that I have the foundations I need to make the best decision. Because it's all about education. We don't want to jump out here thinking we know what we are doing, and we don't have a clue, and we end up losing money or not making the money that we thought we would have made. So I will definitely be picking it up as soon as I figure out what I want to do.
Okay. I will be here. However we make it, we need to get it done.
All right, you guys, so make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I'm bringing you more information about midterm rentals, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, just rentals in general, and how to get started in real estate investing on a basic level. So just stay tuned, and I will be back to you next week with another video.